The experiment that proved humans will obey anyone. Imagine being told to hurt a complete stranger, not because you're angry, not because you hate them, but simply because someone in authority tells you to do it. Most people believe they would refuse. Most people believe they would stand up, say no, and walk away. But one famous experiment revealed a disturbing truth about human nature, a truth that shocks psychologists, scientists, and ordinary people around the world, and it may change the way you see yourself forever. The year was 1961. The world was still trying to understand the horrors of World War II. Many people wondered how ordinary citizens could participate in terrible actions simply because they were ordered to do so. Were those people uniquely cruel, or could almost anyone behave the same way under the right circumstances? One psychologist wanted answers. His name was Stanley Milgram. Milgram believed that authority might have a much stronger influence on human behavior than people realized. To test this idea, he created an experiment at Yale University. The experiment appeared simple. Participants were told they were taking part in a study about learning and memory. When they arrived, they met another participant. At least that's what they thought. In reality, the other participant was an actor working with the research team. The volunteer was assigned the role of teacher. The actor became the learner. The teacher sat in front of a machine with switches labeled with different voltage levels. The learner was placed in another room. The teacher's task was straightforward: ask a question. If the learner answered incorrectly, deliver an electric shock. With every wrong answer, the voltage increased. The participant believed the shocks were real, but they were not. No electricity was actually delivered. The learner was only pretending. At first, the experiment seemed ordinary. The learner made mistakes. The teacher pressed the switches. The voltage increased. Then things began to change. The learner started to complain. Soon he demanded to be released. As the voltage continued to rise, the complaints became louder. Then came the screams. The learner shouted in pain. He begged for the experiment to stop. Some participants became uncomfortable. Others looked nervous. Several laughed awkwardly because of the stress. Many turned toward the researcher and asked if they should continue. Each time, the researcher responded calmly, "Please continue. The experiment requires that you continue. You have no other choice. You must go on." The participants now faced a difficult decision. Should they trust their own moral instincts, or should they obey the authority figures standing beside them? Before the experiment took place, psychologists predicted that very few people would continue to the highest voltage level. Many believed only a tiny percentage would obey, perhaps 1%, maybe even less. They were wrong, very wrong. The results shocked everyone. More than 60% of participants continued all the way to the highest shock level. Think about that for a moment. These were not criminals. They were ordinary people, students, workers, parents, neighbors. People just like you and me. Many participants showed visible signs of distress. Some were sweating, others trembled. A few appeared close to tears, yet they continued. Why? Why would someone continue doing something they believed was harming another person? Milgram believed the answer was authority. When people see someone as a legitimate authority figure, they often transfer responsibility for their actions. Instead of feeling personally responsible, they begin to view themselves as carrying out someone else's instructions. In other words, they stop asking whether something is right or wrong. They focus only on following orders. This idea became known as the agentic state. The experiment revealed something uncomfortable about human nature. Many people like to believe they are completely independent thinkers, but under pressure, authority can have a powerful influence. And this influence is not limited to psychology laboratories. It appears in workplaces, schools, governments, social groups, and everyday life. History provides many examples of people following orders without questioning them. Sometimes the consequences are minor, sometimes they are devastating. The lesson of the Milgram experiment is not that people are evil. In fact, many participants were clearly uncomfortable. The lesson is that good people can sometimes make bad decisions when authority, pressure, and responsibility become confused. Today, the experiment remains one of the most discussed studies in psychology. Some researchers praised its findings, others criticized its methods. Yet decades later, people are still talking about it because it forces us to ask